Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Network Special, the podcast where we look at the glories of the past days of appointment-based television, things that were shown only once or twice, and now, thanks to the magic of the internet, we can see them again and again and again. My name is Zachariah Durr. I am here with my wonderful co-host,
Nathan Shear,
and our wonderful producer,
Jeremy Demery.
Wow, really milking it this week. That's what he sounds like.
It may be the only time I get this episode, so I'm going to take it.
That's true. I got a mountain of stuff to say. You saw the notes in front of me.
I did.
And that's the kind of lightning quick repartee that you're in for this episode between producer Jeremy and myself.
Hey, we're off on the road to China with fun and adventure in mind.
Nathan, I have a question for you. Where were you in 1979?
I was 1 year old. I was in my crib.
Okay.
Crying.
I was a year from being born, but I can tell you where Mr. Bob Hope was. In the mysterious Far East. Because today we're talking about a special that aired in September of 1979 on NBC, Bob Hope on the Road to China.
Mm-hmm. The Orient.
Yes. A thing they do not shy away from calling it back in 1979. Now, this is a special that I can almost guarantee nobody has watched. We are probably one of the only people to really talk about it in any kind of podcast form, because not only has this been forgotten in time, this is a hard thing to track down. I found out about this looking up one of the performers from this episode's IMDb and saw Bob Hope on the Road to China, took a look at it and said, well, there has to be a lot to look at in here. And then it was a challenge to even find it. But you found it.
Yeah. Initially, you said you found a really nasty version on YouTube.
It was nasty. You saw his whole ass. I said, ooh, that's nasty.
I'm worried where this voice is going to go. Okay.
It's our new character, Nasty.
Oh no, I'm not a friend. I'm not a happy.
You don't like
Nasty.
him as much as Stoney?
No, Stoney's much more chilled out. But then I found it on a couple of torrent sites. Totally legal torrent sites.
Totally legal torrent sites. But you can, if you're a real martyr, you can watch this in a format that not only has a giant watermark on it, because God forbid somebody steal this, but it's I think the resolution that old downloadable QuickTime videos used to be on dial-up.
Yeah.
So if
it was a real audio transfer.
Yeah. You open Winamp, and if you make it real small, you can see the images. Mm-hmm. Well, viewer or listener, pardon me. Listener, I hope you appreciate what we do for you on this show, because I didn't realize when I said I wanted to do this special, this is a 3-hour long special.
This felt probably much like the Gilligan's Island tour.
Oh, it was supposed to take 3 hours, but it wound up feeling like years.
Yeah.
Boy, what a time capsule this thing is. As long as it was to get through, as hard as it was to track it down, I found this whole special fascinating for a lot of reasons. First of all, do you have any hard and fast feelings about Bob Hope?
Those old guys, I like them. I like their output. I think it's classic comedy. It is where it is. But I think the older they got, the harder it was to hold on to relevance, and you really get a sense of that in this special, I feel like.
Yes, definitely. Do you mind? I wound up going on a deep dive because I was trying to figure out, there had to be a story behind this thing getting made and how it turned out the way it turned out. I'm going to lay down a little bit of context, backstory, and it's going to seem like I'm going back way too far, but there is a point to it. So here's kind of what's going on. Buckle up. China has always been a super private country. It's pretty isolationist. They have a very, we don't need your influence. We have our own thing. We have our own culture. Thank you very much. And it was that way for literally thousands of years. Not big fans of America. At one point, we're kind of cozying up to the USSR. That didn't really work out for Mao. So then they decided to start putting their toe in possibly cozying up to America. So 5 years before the special aired, Nixon signed an agreement with what was then the People's Republic of China to open up the borders and allow Americans to trade, to travel into China. This had not been a thing before. It was a huge, huge deal. And Bob Hope immediately starts contacting Nixon, Kissinger, people in diplomatic relations, army generals. He wants to be the first person to visit there as an entertainer. He wants to be the first person to film there as an American crew. And he spends 5 years just wearing everybody down to the point where they finally agree, okay, this is it. They've agreed. They've signed off. Bob Hope, at this point, has been an entertainer forever. He was born in 1901. He started as a boxer when he was a kid, transferred to being a comedian. He did vaudeville, did movies, was arguably the biggest comedian for a long time. He had his own comic book. He had a radio show. He had television specials.
He was in the Greens Army, the Greens Navy.
Yeah, you get it. So he's responsible for kind of the way modern day stand-up works. Very quick, very self-deprecating. And for a long stretch, he was just the go-to comedian, not only because he was a great businessman and he had, movies and shows, but he absolutely could best toe the line with politicians in that he might say like, oh, I'm not afraid to ruffle a few feathers, but he would never go over the line. So he did every president's dinner. He did more USO tours entertaining troops than anyone else. Like he was just kind of very in with the political scene. So yeah. I understand why they said, yes, Bob Hope can go in and do this thing.
I feel like if they did it now, they would send like Jimmy Fallon or something. Someone who's just really inoffensive.
Yeah, a real trustworthy person who's not going to try to pull anything. It
would have been Jay Leno.
That's probably a better. Yes, that's probably a better one-to-one. Actually, is Jay Leno. The problem was that even though Nixon and Kissinger may have loved the guy, and at this point it was Carter who got him in there, Bob Hope is now 77. And I don't know if his comedy has progressed beyond 1950. Oh, it's also worth to say that in the 1940s, I think 1943, he signs a 10-year contract with NBC Radio. This is before they're a television network. Then he has his first television special in 1950, and he signs a 60-year contract with NBC that promises him he can do one network special a year for 60 years, because I don't think they thought television was going to be around that long.
That's like a Scientology contract.
So Bob Hope, by the way, Bob Hope only used 40 years of that contract, so he's a quitter. And he got out of his contract when he was 91. So he was 90, because I remember seeing Bob Hope Christmas specials when I was a kid, and he is just a breathing corpse with a Santa hat. And his wife is like, "Look, Bob, it's Joey Lawrence is here. Isn't that nice?" He's like, kind of like wheel him off. But he was a guaranteed. So I think NBC was also in a position was like, well, if Bob Hope's going to China, I guess that's his yearly special. So, both with the backing of two sitting presidents and a ironclad contract with NBC, Bob Hope winds up being the first American to send a film crew there, and they spend a month solid filming this thing.
Sheesh. When did Disney send the Epcot people?
When did they send the Epcot people? What do you mean?
Yes, because they make they also have a kind of claim on being some of the first crew over there filming for their China film.
Are you talking about the Epcot Center? Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know. So let's see. Epcot entered or opened what, 1980? 81?
83 or 81.
So, okay.
So I guess after this.
Yeah.
But of course they're designing all this stuff in the late 70s. But they probably didn't start filming until 80s.
Yeah, as Bob Hope was leaving, the Epcot people, Mickey was coming in with his camera.
All right.
So even though the point of this special is supposed to be showing America the wonders of the former Forbidden City and showing them the wonders of China, boy, oh boy, it sure does focus on Mr. Bob Hope pretty heavily, and there's incidentally Chinese stuff kind of around him.
It seemed like this was very a diplomatic affair.
Oh, 100%. That was the idea behind this, is that, we'll showcase some of your performers. We'll have some of our performers come over. I'm talking about the tone of this is much more about Bob Hope does his normal shtick, and also it's China.
Yeah. And there's plenty of times, and Bob Hope, understands that his stuff's not going to go over with these audiences. And there's plenty of, there's two audiences every time almost. There's the American diplomats and the crew, and then there's just these Chinese people. I don't know if they're diplomats or if they're an audience or what, but there's two joke breaks for each joke because it's being translated, and the first joke break always gets a laugh, and the second one, it's a crapshoot. You never know if they're going to laugh or not.
Yeah, he seems almost perversely married to doing his normal thing. And I don't know if that's Bob Hope not being able to change, or he's so arrogant he just figures it's going to work. I don't know. I mean, he had a team of writers, including a person who went along, head writer James Lipton from Inside the Actors Studio was head writer on this, and he penned some of the atrocious songs that we're going to be talking about. This whole thing opens in Tiananmen Square, and Bob Hope is walking. Tiananmen Square.
He never says a title or name the same way twice.
No. Can't be bothered.
At one point, there's a Chinese woman who's like, "It's Shanghai," because he keeps saying Shanghai,
and he goes, over and Shanghai. That's a good one. They said you people weren't funny. Bob Hope's other big demand, besides doing all his regular material, seems to be in the most comfortable clothes possible, because he's in this opening number where he is singing a song with very sensitive lyrics about how he's looking forward to being shanghaied. Did you catch that?
There's a lot of stuff going on in this.
There's a lot. But he's just in he's in an untucked blousey shirt, penny loafers, a bucket hat, and he's always carrying that golf club.
What? Okay. Was that a shtick?
Yeah, it was.
Beyond this? Okay.
And I don't know if part of that, could part of it have been he used it for balance sometimes and he was too vain to have a cane? I don't know.
Well, he's doing Tai Chi. He's doing okay.
Yeah, he sure does. He sings a musty... Yeah, go on.
This outfit he's wearing, it's not very hard to imagine if you've ever seen an old person.
No, but
he's wearing your Sunday loungers,
yeah, you know what? He's also on TV in an opening number. At least tuck the shirt into the pants, Bob.
Well, if you look, if you notice, he's almost dressing exactly like every single Chinese person in this. I
suppose that's true. A lot of white shirts. You could tell that America had not yet soaked their region with T-shirts, because it's just, I noticed it as well. It's all just people in white button-up shirts.
Is that I'm assuming that's a result of a kind of communist?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Mao's army. Yeah. Bob Hope,
there's people wearing communist garb and the comedians are calling each other comrade.
Yeah, a lot of the little hats with the red star.
Yeah, so this is still, they're still essentially communists. They're
walking underneath a gigantic framed picture of Mao. So anytime you're in a country where there are giant pictures of the leader everywhere, it's not quite a democracy.
But they're still that way today. Just more capitalism sprinkled in.
Right. Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
It has been obviously raining, and I don't know why they couldn't ask the Chinese government if they had any stock footage of Tiananmen Square, because Bob Hope is saying look at it, isn't it beautiful? And it's just rain puddles everywhere. It's a gray day. It's just cement. It looks so gross. He makes a joke about how it looks like Jackie Gleason's patio.
Yeah.
Was that a fat joke, or is it a joke about how Jackie Gleason has so much money?
How many jokes did he tell that were so inside baseball? Well,
inside America. This was not created for anybody in China, definitely.
But I agree. But also just I guess that's probably part of his. But the amount of industry jokes I feel like he told.
That's all the man knows.
How many? Okay, so one thing about his routines and his jokes. There was something that in Steve Martin's book about his life that he talked about how he watched. I forget which comedian it was, some famous comedian on the Tonight Show, and he watched him do his joke. And every time he did his joke, he would do a gesture, and it became the rhythm, and people would laugh at that gesture.
Yeah,
even if the joke wasn't funny or it made no sense. That was a high percentage of Bob Hope jokes for me, whereas just I have no idea what the punchline means, but I felt triggered to laugh.
He's doing it. Yeah, he is a machine at this point.
Yeah.
He has done so many shows. He knows the mechanics of delivering a joke, even if the joke doesn't make any sense. Nowadays, of course, you have to crouch down and slap the microphone on your knee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there's a little bit more physicality going on. All the speeches Bob Hope gives about China have the undercurrent of, boy, China used to suck, huh? And we got here. Oh, could you tell who sponsored this show, Nathan? Could you figure it out?
I kept forgetting, and then I was reminded every 5 minutes.
There are so many commercials baked into this. I think it was played straight through with only these commercials played. There's 3 sponsors.
Yeah, I think so too.
DuPont, Coca-Cola, and is it Dow Chemical? Was that the other one?
No, DuPont is the chemical. Texaco oil,
of course.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, the commercials for DuPont,
hysterical.
Just the can you imagine in today's like kind of like chemically woke culture, like these commercials were basically it's a housewife or someone, and she's washing dishes and doing, going to the fridge, and she's naming these the chemical names for common everyday items. And she's just, like, and it's all about how there's all these chemicals in everything we use. Like, it is so hyper focused on the fact that there are chemicals. And today everything is like, if you mention the word chemical, people are like, I do not compute this. You're telling me there's chemicals in this pencil? I'm gonna get cancer in my thumb.
Well, two things about these endless DuPont commercials. The DuPont copy in one of them was 60,000 people doing their best. Wow. Thanks, DuPont. We're really trying.
It was one of them where was that the same one where it was like talking about how they've never had an accident?
How it was safer to work at a DuPont factory than to be like a taxi driver or something.
Like, what was going on at the time? Like, we're just like factories blowing up, and like people are just really worried about using anything from, like, oh, we're okay.
Yeah, probably. I think all the ads were designed to calm people down. All the ads could have just said, "I know it sounds scary, but actually, you just use it all the time, and you're fine." And this is a good time to say that in 2019, DuPont led the Toxic 100 Water Polluters Index. So DuPont still going strong.
They were also the subject of that Mark Ruffalo movie.
Yeah, Dark Water.
Yeah. About the Teflon and all that stuff. Or whatever was it Teflon, or what was the that's in a pan that makes it
I don't know if it was it Teflon, but it was about a city that basically they poisoned.
Yeah.
Like a town.
Whatever
they poisoned the water.
Yeah. And then the Texaco commercials are great too, because it was just like, we keep digging and digging and digging, and we can't go low enough for you.
It shows them throwing animals out of the way and sticking a drill in the ground.
Yes. Like, we paid over $500 million to get to the core of the earth for you.
Well, after we're reminded of who paid for this thing, we are treated to our first musical number, which gives the Chinese, as Bob Hope puts it, the blessings of disco. And it is a duo named Peaches and Herb.
Okay, so
I'll get out of the way.
This, by the way, I'm into this. By the way, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off to say I am into this. But didn't it feel a little disrespectful?
What, the fact that they're in the tomb of an emperor?
Yeah,
singing about how they want to hump each other?
Yeah. Yes.
Peaches and Herb, who sang Shake Your Groove Thing, right? That was their big hit.
Oh, I can't remember.
I think it was. They just scored some big hits before this came up. They're a pretty inoffensive disco duo. By the way, there has been 7 Peaches and only 1 Herb. Peaches and Herb still together. Yeah, this was Peaches number 2. Yeah.
My wife said something like, I think there's a very like a loving story about them always being married forever or something.
Well,
no, you're saying there's 7?
The first Peaches is Herb's wife. Okay. Then she got sick of it, and they hired a new person who just went under the name Peaches.
Okay, all right.
I think he does tours and like nostalgia stuff now, and there's just like rotating Peaches with him.
Yeah. Reunited was the other song, so Shake Your Groove Thing and Reunited.
Okay. Pretty. I mean, whether or not you like the song, this is a very boringly filmed sequence where they're in a very beautiful temple, just kind of walking around, and then they unleash a horde of very, very cute children who kind of bounce up and down and wave their arms around, which I thought was charming.
And then they're dancing with everyone, and
so
the audience.
One thing that's important to note, as you would expect, since they're out in public, they're not in private studios. There's crowds of people coming up who don't look mad, but they look confused. Some of them look happy, but most of them are just like have no idea what's happening. And so the American performers will do things like pick someone out of a crowd and dance with them. And this is not seemingly to the delight of the people who they're doing this to, who are not used to this kind of thing. They all look very nervous, like they're at gunpoint. There's one point where Peaches goes up and tries to take a guy's hand to dance with him, and he shakes his head, and she kind of goes, all right, and shrugs and goes to the next person.
I mean, and this is amplified whenever Shields and Yarnell show up.
Well, we will get there. We will get to Shields and Yarnell in a second. But first, Nathan, unless you have more you want to say about Peaches and Herb dancing on Emperor's grave. Okay.
That's really where you can see the fashion of China, of like every man is wearing a white shirt, brown pants, and then these leather sandals. Mm-hmm. Every man's wearing the exact same thing almost.
And everyone has a bicycle. Very few cars.
Yes. Also, that where they are at, that temple, I'm pretty sure that's the temple that Epcot's China pavilion is based off of.
I think you're right, although I'm sure there's similar architecture in different places, but you're probably right.
Yeah, like it's not the same. Like, you can tell that they've done the perspective. But you walk up the sides, and in the middle is that little stone plaque that's kind of sitting just like in the show.
Now, you'll have to excuse Nathan. He's, of course, been to China, by which I mean the Chinese pavilion at Epcot. So he knows a lot about the country. He'll talk about these different points of interest.
They have really great food. They have like orange chicken and fried rice.
And right near China is a churro cart, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's if you don't know,
I think that's Tibet.
China is right next to
to
Norway. It's right next to Norway. And then if you want to go to Africa, you just cross a bridge and you're at an African hot dog and Coke stand. So that's the geography.
I don't know why Bob Hope was complaining about the food so much.
Yeah,
it was pretty
delicious. Good. Yeah.
Well, Nathan, guess what? You and I love stand-up comedy, and that's what we're getting next. Because, as you said, a carefully vetted crowd of American diplomats and Chinese people who look like they were around when the Great Wall was built are kind of shuffled in. And Bob Hope comes out to do some stand-up comedy with a translator who I found out is a very respected actor in China. He was in like Emperor of the Sun and a bunch of movies. And they have this poor man, I don't care what he was paid. He was underpaid. They have him translate Bob Hope's jokes. And you know how in most specials they would play maybe they would set up like, okay, this is a translator, and they'll show a little bit of them translating. But you won't cut to them doing the whole translation every time. Apparently they had plenty of time to eat up on this special because Bob Hope tells a joke and then you see the Chinese actor also telling the joke. This was not simulcast in China. Who is this for?
And he has to stop and ask what the meaning of a reference is.
I think that was planned.
You think that was planned?
Yes, I do. For several reasons. So what you're kind of define what you're talking about with that.
Okay, so he mentions, like he says, Caesar's Palace at one point, and because he's trying to make some joke about being in a casino. And the reason why I think that
he says that he says the Emperor's Palace looks like Caesar's Palace without the slot machines.
That's right.
They must have loved hearing that.
Massive joke. And the reason why I think at least that reference is real is because he says, explain Caesar's Palace, and then he tries to make Bob Hope tries to make another joke, and he looks at him, and he tries to make another joke, and then at the end he finally goes, "It's just it's a gambling place. It's a place where we gamble." He was like, "Look, we gotta move on."
Huh. The reason, so here are the reasons why I think that back and forth is probably staged.
Okay.
Because number one, they had to submit all these scripts to the Chinese government. There was no ad-libbing. Number two, I'm sure this actor looked over his lines beforehand.
Yeah, but
and
he doesn't look at the lines. He repeats.
Yeah, he's doing it, but also Bob Hope's comebacks are a little too clever. I'm not saying the guy couldn't be clever. I thought they were a little too clever, and there was 3 of them. So there's a rule of 3.
Maybe, yeah.
They're really. Now maybe it's true, and Bob Hope was still an amazing improviser at 77. He might have been. I just thought that with the amount of vetting, the government, who I found out later almost shut them down due to 1 or 2 jokes they had scripted and submitted to them.
Whoa.
Would have, but yeah, because that's the other thing is you can talk about how moldy the jokes are in here, and they are. But there was plenty of jokes that the government just would not let them do, and they kept on making them redo the script. And at one point, we're going to seize the film.
Oh, man. This 3-hour plan squashed by a joke about the emperor's nose or something.
But here's the other thing is who is this really for? Because Bob Hope says that there's the hit movie over here is The American Syndrome. What Chinese person is going to know the film The China Syndrome?
I know.
So what did he think was going to, what kind of a pop did he think it was going to get when it was translated?
I see a lot of karate kids out here.
Okay, so what seems like 45 minutes later, we are mercifully transferred to our next performers. And everyone, this was a time when stage arts were in their last hurrah of something that you could get famous on stage and then transfer that into TV and movies. So you could be a dancer, you could be a Broadway star, you could be a mime, and you could get a career out of that. And speaking of mime, who do we meet next, Nathan?
Oh, the worst act in the world. Shields and Yarnell. I that name is very familiar to me, and also their faces are. So I know I've encountered them in my time on Earth. But oh boy, I hate them so much.
Well, explain who they were for anybody who, even though every child knows Shields and Yarnell still, yeah. And they were on the Muppet Show. That may be where you know them from,
right?
As a child.
I mean, they're just mimes, really, and they like to do the robot.
Boy, do they!
And Shields, who's the male counterpart, loves to jump really high. And so any character he can do where he gets to jump high, he's going to do. And then Yarnell, I don't know what her specialty is, really. Kissing? It seemed to be that was all the things that she did.
Well, later you see them dance, and they're very good dancers and acrobats.
Oh, that's right. She was a good tap dancer.
At
least in that.
At least to us, people who don't tap dance. She's a good tap dancer because the taps go real fast.
I don't know what the guys from Stomp would think. but I just, as I watched them, I just felt like, is there anything less timeless than this freaking act?
Well, so Shields and Yarnell, first of all, they were insanely popular in the 70s. They had their own show. They were guests on everything. They claim to, I don't know if they invented doing robot mime. I think they may have perfected it. That's what they got famous for, and they were on all these shows. And they are very good at playing robots, and they are obviously very good physical performers. And I understand why you would take them to a foreign country because it's an act that doesn't speak, so it can translate well.
Yeah.
That being said, especially Shields, the man, performs with the energy who is so mad he has to do his robot routine all the time because he can do a lot of other things. Doesn't he seem angry all the time? And Yarnell is just kind of like calming him down at all points.
He just seemed very much like the feeling I got was that he knew he was funny.
He certainly thinks he's funny.
He was always on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so in his mind, like, oh, I know I'm funny. Here we go. And so he's never not emoting.
He has a very intense energy. I guess he was also, they're both very good looking. I don't think that hurt in terms of becoming the most popular mime is to be attractive. Apparently he was discovered by Marcel Marceau on the streets of California busking. And then he left Marcel Marceau because he was like, I can do this better. So that's the energy that Shields brings to an act, is I can do this better.
And they both have like a Page style haircut. Is that right? Page?
Yeah, they have a real Captain and Tennille little child actor in the 70s haircut.
Yeah.
Like
little Lord Fauntleroy.
Yes, two little Dutch boys on the paint can. So this act is they're doing the robot. What else? But they're in a marketplace, and I could tell this is something that they've done in America. They go out to a marketplace and they interact with people, and they're like, pretend to go up and stare right in their face or dance around with them or whatever. And maybe in America, this delights people. This seems to terrify and confuse the good people of China, who look so stressed out.
Well, they present it as like, so they get carried out as if they are mannequins.
Yes.
And they're set up near other mannequins, and they present it as like, oh, this is a great prank. Watch the reaction of people when they realize that why is this mannequin moving? But these people know immediately. They know immediately that they're real.
Probably they're tipped off by the fact that there are Americans with cameras in their store.
And so they're going around, and they're basically like getting in everyone's face.
Yep.
Like Yarnell is almost raping everyone, like in the crowd. Like people are like standing there, and she's like embracing them and hugging, like, and they're like, I don't know where to go. I can't go. I'm stuck.
Can I tell you about what I think was the greatest moment in this? Is something that I hate about any modern special is they'll edit out anything that's real or anything that's not smooth. And I think we both love these old specials because they'll leave that stuff in even by accident. Yeah. They are doing this routine to no reaction. Oh, by the way, no music is being played over this. You're hearing in silence people just kind of muttering to each other and them walking silently around. And
it's like when you're in an empty department store is what it sounds like.
But there's hundreds of people.
Feet scuffles.
So they're doing this to no reaction. And at the end of the piece, Shields looks at the camera, shrugs, and goes back to being a robot. That was not planned. That was him looking at the cameraman going, I don't know what to do. And then the thing just ends.
I know what he's thinking is, this is unusable.
Yes. With his eyes, yeah.
He just goes, you know what? Oh, well, we tried. I guess we won't show this. But he was wrong. That this thing's 3 hours. We got to put another 20 minutes of this.
All right. On to our next guest, Mikhail Barishnikov, ballet dancer, modern dancer, probably one of the most famous dancers of all time.
By the way, I don't know what his name is. Is it Mikhail?
Mikhail.
Is it Mikhail? I don't know.
You're going by Bob Hope's pronunciations.
He's saying 50 things. Yeah, he says Mikhail at one point. Like he wants to call him Mike. He's like, hey, my buddy Mike.
Mikhail Barishnikov seems like a nice guy. Seems, they have him going in to teach a group of Chinese ballet dancers, and God bless him, the guy is serious about teaching the class. He's not doing it for the cameras. He's using a bunch of terms I don't know and showing them things that are obviously very technical. I'm sure he's doing them perfectly. I'm too much of a dum-dum to know if he's doing it perfectly or not.
He seems like a real poon hound to me.
Oh, well, yeah. He's a gorgeous looking man who can dance and is, you can see that whole ass. Let me tell you something. Nasty's back and he saw that whole ass.
Yeah, he very very much teaching a class. No, like pretense, like or whatever. Like this is like
he's not cutesing it up.
Yeah, no, he's doing what he does.
Yeah. And it goes on, and I was just sitting there going, I mean, I guess this is sort of interesting. I don't know if it's TV special fodder, but I truly feel as though I'm watching a dance class.
If you took just the performances, and which is what this should have been, performances with some transitions, it would have been an hour probably, right?
Oh, you could, I mean, even if you wanted to make
maybe.
hour and a half. I'd say you could make this hour and a half and it could breeze by. The thing that is so fascinating is you just feel like you are watching raw footage because again, there's no music piped in and there's some narration, but not a lot. So you're just kind of watching things unfold. Can we breeze past this because that's it.
To.
Like it's a dance class. That's what it is.
I think we touch on the people who are in this and we kind of move through because this thing was massively long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so who's our next?
We meet I am saying it as Bob Hope says it. So I am very sorry if I'm getting Mao Che-chu, who is a 7'4" basketball star in China.
Oh my Lord.
And he is there with Big Bird.
And he's taller than Big Bird, right?
I think he's a little taller than Big Bird. Yeah. Or he's a huge guy.
This guy looks like a Terminator. You know, like he I guess all tall people like that have those features, but this guy looks like he's got metal underneath the skin.
Oh, by the way, I feel as though the person who gets the warmest reception in China, Mikhail Barishnikov, and then Big Bird, probably neck and neck for the only people who anyone seems excited about seeing.
Yeah.
But it's also very strange. Like China, here's who's very famous in America, an old man and a puppet.
Yeah.
So the 7'4" guy is supposed to be very, very good at basketball. Do we get to see him play basketball? No. Do we get to see Bob Hope trying to shoot baskets in front of him? Yep. Yeah. Definitely that.
Although this guy does, he pretty flawlessly lobs that basketball like a pea into the hoop, and it never misses. He does about 2 or 3. Just he like flicks it with his finger. And the basketball just sinks right in.
This seems like there was nothing planned, doesn't it? Because I realize this big guy might not be the most comfortable in front of the cameras, but they go to a basketball court, say, yeah, you're pretty good at basketball. I bet, Shorty. Well, let me get a try at this. That's it. Like, even Big Bird is given nothing to do. Big Bird's just kind of standing there going like, oh, wow.
I know. Yeah, this segment was dead in the water for sure. It was just for me, it was just a freak show. Like seeing this massive man, like, come see the 7-foot man, like that's what it felt like to me.
Nathan, after all that was sports, it sounds like we could use another laugh from across the globe. Because we meet what apparently are some of China's most famous comedians.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Okay. What I appreciated this segment because I'm a fan of sketch comedy, and this is what they did. And I really appreciated that before they did the sketch, they told you what was going to happen in the whole sketch and described the feeling you should have as you watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's how would you describe the routine? What happens?
It's just a barbershop and someone's getting their hair cut and this is very much like to me, like this is like what we would joke about communist comedy is. Like like it's like before communism, here's what it was like to get your hair cut. After, here's what it's like. But it was just like it was hard before, and now it's happy now. Like that's how it kind of felt.
Right, because they have two little wooden paddles. There's those three guys in this comedy team. One guy's role is to sit in a chair and comment on what the other two are doing. One is the barber, and the other one is the person getting their shave. And they clack two little pieces of wood together that sound like scissors. Mm-hmm. And the person under Gang of Four cuts his face up, and the person now gives him a nice shave.
Yeah, and
it might not translate super well.
Yeah. Did you what the Gang of Four? That is. Can you school me on that a little bit?
No, I can't because I don't know enough. I know it was part of the militaristic rule.
Okay, yeah. So because, like we said earlier, like they are still under this this form of communism or
still People's Republic. Yes.
Yeah, whatever's happening. So it's not like pre and post. This just seems to be, under a more mean dictator.
Sure. Well, the appearances maybe are a little softer,
Yeah.
You won't get thrown in jail as easily. But apparently, I mean, look, these guys who were performers were jailed for doing comedy in the past. So, hey, respect to them. And I'm sure, most comedy does not translate well at all if there's anything verbal involved or cultural reference. Just look at Bob Hope with that sea of ashen faces looking at him.
I thought I thought they were funny. I thought my daughter was laughing.
Okay. I mean, yeah, this does seem like an act you would do for children, doesn't it?
Yeah. Without the political tones.
Sure.
But yeah.
Then we go to Crystal Gale, who was a country singer who had just scored some big hits.
She crossed over.
Yeah, she was a crossover. She's younger sister of Loretta Lynn. And, she sings some very mild 70s country numbers. I will say this, out of all the country stars of that era, she had the longest hair.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
I'm glad I said it too.
I'm glad you were willing to say it.
Yeah. I'm going to kind of skim over.
I liked her scenes. I thought they were fine. I don't know. I think it's funny throughout it's later on. Bob Hope gets both Mikhail and Gale in two separate pieces, but he gets them and they do a kind of vaudeville act together.
They're doing what he must have been doing on his USO tours, except if it was. He would do it like with a sergeant and with whatever playmate he had over there.
Yeah, and I thought they both did okay. I thought Crystal Gale did well. I thought it was, these are just mild, like you said, they're mild pieces, 70s pieces, and they were fine. I wished it was just condensed down to those pieces throughout this show.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have made it any better, like in terms of actual entertainment, but it certainly would have made it move a little quicker.
Yes, and easier to digest.
So we go past this. We see what looks like a very sick panda in a shoddy looking circus go down a slide. Okay, this was very interesting, and it was more interesting when I read about it. I went on there. One of the writers for this special, whose name is Will. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Bob Mills. He has a website called laughmakers.blogspot. And this guy is the most corny ass writer in the world, but he did remember and relay a lot of stories on this website. They go into a theater and they play one of Bob Hope's old movies for a crowd of Chinese people who have translator headsets on. And I'm watching
on the record. Hello?
Okay, sorry, I lost you for a second.
For a while there.
Well, now I can't hear you.
Okay,
Nathan,
hold on,
where are you, sweetie?
I'm right here.
There you are.
Okay, so you were saying we had just finished talking about the panda.
Oh, okay. That was the last thing you heard?
And then you said this next part was really interesting.
Oh, okay. So there is a man named Bob Mills who has a website called laughmakers.blogspot. And he is a writer for the show. He was in China writing this with the team. He is a very corny writer. According to him, this special went great, and it was a big hit, and it was wonderful. No notes from Bob. But he went into a detail that they did not go into in the special, and it makes it 100 more times more affecting. We're seeing Chinese people in a movie theater with headsets on that are translators watching an old Bob Hope movie. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing their reaction, and they're laughing, but I'm seeing people are crying. And I go, yes. I don't think they're crying laughing, but there's just tears rolling down their face. And Bob Hope comes out afterwards, and for the first time, Bob Hope looks energized. He looks engaged. He is so excited. People have just seen him be funny and young in something. And he is excitedly answering all their audience questions and talking about the old days. I read on Bob's website, this is the first movie most of these people had ever seen.
Wow.
That's mind-blowing. No wonder this is like them, a silent movie audiences watching the train come into the station and they jump out of the way because they think it's going to come at them. Yeah, it was just funny because the energy shifts so violently with Bob, and I was just like, I wish he could be this Bob Hope the whole time, or focus in more on this is the culture that we're trying to impart, rather than setting Peaches and Herb in front of a statue of a dragon to sing their hit.
Yeah, this was a really engaging part of the show. I was really interested in the questions they were asking, because these were people who were actors, and they were people who were in the arts, and the audience was. So it was interesting to hear their questions. And
now, at this point, we're a little past the halfway point of the special, and now we start repeating guests. We get another song from Crystal Gale. We get another song from Peaches and Herb.
Who Peaches and Herb they have chartered a boat, and they are making love all over this boat in front of the captain,
who looks very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, they're like basically just they're like all over each other, like next to the captain. Like the captain's not like, can you guys get out of here? Trying to pilot this boat.
That captain has his eyes dead locked straight ahead of him, like they're glued. Yeah. Now, I know I just said I wish that they had done more in terms of the culture going back and forth, but maybe I had spoken too soon, because we are at the point of the show where Bob Hope just cannot help himself, and he decides to don some traditional garb.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, indeed. And I wrote in my notes,
he does
dear,
some cosplay.
Yellowface is written down in this section.
He does some cosplay, we'll say.
We can put it that way, sure.
Yeah, definitely yellow. Definitely, I don't even like to even say that sounds racist.
Sure.
But yeah, very much. It would have been maybe okay if he just worn the outfit. I think it was the little mustache that.
I think it was that. I think it was the little tape that he had by his eyes. I think there was just a couple too many flourishes on this costume, which Bob Mills on his website assures us is authentic Chinese garb. I was like, I'm sure it was Bob Mills.
For once.
And it's also
the racism of authentic gear.
For once, God. So this kind of encapsulates the tone of this special, because Bob Hope is singing Ruler of the Queen's Navy by Gilbert and Sullivan. These old comedians loved Gilbert and Sullivan. Nothing is funnier to Groucho and Jack Benny and Bob Hope than Gilbert and Sullivan. But James Lipton has rewritten the lyrics to talk about China. No, to talk about Bob Hope's career. So Bob Hope is on this boat dressed in whatever garb he's in, Chinese opera garb, I guess, singing about his career through vaudeville into movies, and some hapless Chinese actors are phonetically repeating choruses after him in a way that does no favors to anyone.
No, they're on this famous emerald boat.
It's a marble boat.
A marble.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Marble boat that's been there for thousands of years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is I this is very much all about him. Like this, and that is so true. Like this whole thing was like, he's like, I gotta get out there. I gotta show the people China, and then he's like just doing him at China. Like if you were in his living room, he's telling you old stories about himself. He went all the way to China to tell us about his journey from stage to radio.
So after that, things just kind of, as I said, we're starting to repeat acts. We see ballet. We see a Chinese opera, which I will say is the one thing that really I was very much into. I was into Chinese opera as it is singing and juggling and jumping all over the place and dancing and a puppet that they set on fire. And
yes,
it looks
that was
incredibly entertaining, actually.
Yeah. That was the best part, was the puppets show and
Yeah.
Big Bird getting all the kids to sing along.
Yeah. So Carol
was fun to watch.
Spinney, who plays Big Bird, gets in front of an audience of children, and there is an incredibly heartwarming call and response song that he does with them, which is why the next year Carol Spinney asked if he could do another special in China, which is Big Bird Goes to China.
Yes.
Which is sort of the much more tasteful version and short version of this special.
Yeah.
So we are barreling towards the end, but not after more rickety circus. We're subjected to the Philadelphia Boys Choir singing God Bless America.
But also, like, at every single one of these performances, Bob Hope does another 20-minute stand-up act.
Oh,
Every single time he's doing more
endless.
stand-up. I'm like, how many jokes did they write for this freaking thing?
Endless. Bob Hope interviews a very uncomfortable-looking stewardess.
Oh my gosh.
Who's
That's
20
where he gets chastised for how he says Shanghai.
Good for her.
Yeah.
And
That
then,
was like that.
yeah.
Like, do you think? Okay, there's no way that they were like, okay, guys, we gotta plan this show for China. We got 3 hours. So here we got this segment with this segment. Like I picture a board with cards on the thing, and it says like, oh, it goes from here to here and here. And there's no way that there was a card that says interview with Chinese stewardess. No way. He was just like, hey, get that girl over here.
Hey, cutie, you're beautiful. She has some English skills, but you can tell it is extremely limited. She is answering yes or no questions, and it keeps going.
Oh my
He
gosh.
keeps raking her over the coals for more information this woman does not have. And then finally, the national nightmare is over, and Bob Hope stands on a wall and sings "Thanks for the Memory," his classic song with new lyrics about China. Now, we've been seeing things in this special that now you look at it and it's very, as you can say, cringy. It seems all over the place. It seems slipshod. And I always want to try to give benefit of the doubt of the time. Obviously, this is 79. This is camera people. I'm sure there's a language barrier. Equipment weighed a ton, and you just couldn't transfer things easily. So was this good for 1979? No. I read current day reviews from 79. People were horrified at this thing. This is from the Washington Post, Tom Shales, 79. The road to China and the 10th month have at least one thing in common. They're both too long. Bob Hope's much ballyhooed 3-hour special, Bob Hope on the Road to China, is the season's first huge disappointment. Poorly organized, sloppily performed, and stingy with views of Chinese life, this marathon jaunt turns into a plod. If Hope's producers can blow a thing like a China show, Hope's best roads are behind him.
Oh my God.
Ouch. Don't hold back.
Oh boy. Yeah, a lot of times every time I watch these, I always think, who liked this? And it's not fair sometimes, but it sounds like we are being fair to this thing.
I think there's a reason why this fell out of circulation, because there's a lot of Bob Hope specials you can still get and they even sell. This one mysteriously has disappeared from easily get-atable public consumption. And yeah, I understand why.
Yeah. Yeah, if we're on to the recommendation part of the episode, I feel like don't bother with this piece of trash. You can find some clips online, but geez, 3 hours. Like I was fast forwarding through some of the performances because I was like, look, I can't keep going.
I was perversely fascinated with this just because production is so different now. And I love things where they just let the camera roll. And so you're seeing all the awkwardness and the sweatiness and the strangeness unfold in front of you. So if that kind of thing fascinates you, I would say watch it. If that holds no interest for you, don't bother. And I think Bob Hope's intentions were probably good in his mind. Like, I think some of it was ego. He wants to be the first one over and he's Mr. America and whatever. I think that was part of it. But I think he probably genuinely did enjoy going to different parts of the world and feeling as though he was the face of the friendly American. But I also think it's interesting seeing him in these situations because he had been doing USO tours for soldiers forever, right? So if you're doing that, you're in a foreign country, but you're performing for Americans. And so all the jokes you're making are, you talk about like how mean the Sarge is or whatever, but they're also going to be at the expense of the place that you're in. Monkey brains, you're eating, that kind of thing. And he can't quite break out of that still because he's still making tasteless jokes about Chinese laundries and rice patties and stuff where you're like, Bob, not in front of them. Come on. If you got to say it, wait for the hotel room in front of your sycophant writers.
Like one of the first jokes, like he opens with the rice patty joke.
Yeah.
There was a
joke. Can you explain it to me? This is in the Barishnikov bit. He goes, boy, Bob, it sure is crowded here. He goes, yeah, crowded. Boy, I'll say. I went for a walk, and when I came back, I was wearing somebody else's shoes. Huh?
He says, what does he say? He says, like, there was a suit that 3 different people wore or something. What's that joke?
Oh, I don't remember that. There were so many confusing jokes where I'm like, I'm pretty good at deciphering these old moth-ridden bits, but I don't understand what that means.
My favorite is that we're seeing the panda go on this slide, and he says, I hope Smokey the Bear doesn't see this. He'll turn in his actor's equity card. Just so specific to people not at home watching this.
Well, with that, your favorite performing bears are gonna call this one a day. You're welcome. We watched it, so you didn't have to. Producer Jeremy, any thoughts on this special? You're gonna go straight home and watch it after this?
Oh, I can't wait. I'm just tickled with an excitement over here to get home and watch Bob Hope be tone deaf.
And
in all ways.
I'm gonna let Stoney off the hook on this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we got that new guy hanging out.
That's right, Producer
Yes.
Jeremy. And I'm showing my whole ass. My whole ass.
He does.
All right.
He might be Stoney's cousin. It
His
seemed
evil
like
twin.
they're related. Yeah.
His evil twin.
There's Nasty and Stoney.
All
One's
right,
a drug
well,
addict, the other one's a sex addict.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thank you. We love all of you. Goodbye.
Bye.